Hi there and welcome to our next training series for Blender. Today we're going to have a look at adding some simple rotating text in Blender, and just for something a little bit different we're going to use the Blender Cycles build. Cycles is a build that is currently on the go with Blender. It's a new render engine. It's looking fantastic. It's easy to use, so let's give it a go. Now, if you haven't got the version of Cycles yet, you can head over to graphical.org, which I'm just at the moment there. Select your operating system from down the bottom here and browse through this website till you find yourself a Cycles build. Now, most of these you'll find there are plenty that of them hanging around that don't need any specific hardware to operate with. So yeah, find yourself a good build and fire it up. Now I've fired up my version of Cycles here at the moment. Let's just head over to it. Here we are, and this is just the start screen. It's about 2 months old now. You know, this video is currently being made at the start of August, and yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a Cycles update fairly soon. So let's just, when we get around inside this, the big difference between other versions of Blender and this one is that when we have a look at our screen display here, we can turn it all the way up now to rendered, and we can see that we get a dynamic render within our modeling scope. So that means it's really good for fine-tuning lighting and really getting just that extra out of your models. So instead of having that slow process where you sort of change the lights, go off and do a render, see how it looks, go back, do a render, keep, you know, fine-tuning everything, it can be a really kind of like disruptive process working that way. This way lets you basically work within your modeling window, have everything set up, and just make it happen. It's a much more visual way of working, and it's a little bit less technical, I think, and I think for creative workers, it's just a better system. It's a more natural system. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to just knock this back to solid again. I'm going to turn this into a 3D window here, so I've got myself a couple of 3D windows. Good one. I think I'll make this, whoops, that was not what I like. Okay, so I'm going to move that down, and we're going to use a timeline as well because we're going to be animating this text. So I'm just going to hit my 1 key, and I'm going to turn this out of camera mode. Now I'm just going to get rid of the monkeys, so select them with right mouse button. Takes a bit of getting used to with Blender. X, delete, that's good. We're going to keep this ground plane. I think that's all fine, and what we're going to do is add into this scene a bit of text. So I can go Shift A to add, or you can use the menu up here, and we come down to text, which is hanging around here somewhere. Here we go, text. Bang, we're into it. We want to edit this text next, so I'm just going to hit tab here, and I'm just going to put my name in. That's looking okay. Now these text controls are fairly basic. We don't have a lot of kerning or, you know, ability to get really fine control over the letter forms. If you're a perfectionist, then you can always set your type in Illustrator and then import it into Blender. That can be a good way to go, but for the moment this will do us. Hopefully Blender's going to have a look at, you know, making these text controls a little bit more fully featured and complex as they go along. But for now, they're perfectly good. Right, I've set my type. I've gone back into object mode. Now I'm going to convert this. At the moment it's type. Whoops, I'm going to convert this. So I'm going to go object, down here, convert, and I'm going to convert a mesh from a curve. So this text is made from a font, and the font, you know, uses basically vector curves to draw this up, just, you know, the way that a program like Illustrator or Photoshop does. So let's convert it to a mesh, so it's a little bit, you know, gives us a few more options to work with. Good one. So let's go in there. We can see that now it's all made up of triangles. A little bit messy, but it's good for this purpose. So I'm just going to do an extrude. Seeing as we're working in the world of 3D here, let's do a bit of extrusion and make use of that extra dimension. So that will do my text for the moment. That's good. I'm going to go back out. I might turn things from wireframe up to solid now so I can see a little bit more of what's going on. Okay, and I'm going to center this type in the on all the axes, so I've got a nice centered thing that I can spin around, make it easy to work with. Okay, now one handy thing here is you can hit your N key, brings up this transform palette, and we can see here, I'll just drag this out a little bit more. You can click on the plus up in the top corner or hit that N key. I'm going to change my location, so I'm going to set all these to 0, so I just hit 0, tab takes me to the next one, 0, tab 0, and it's centered. It's relatively centered. The other thing that we want to do is the object center currently is right where the C is, so I'm going to go object and I'm going to transform, and I'm going to transform the origin to the geometry. Okay. Now that's going to bring, you can see that these handles have moved basically to the center and everything's going to rotate around that origin point now. So that's good. So now I'm just going to go 0, tab 0, tab 0 again. Now it's fully centered. And I'm going to, next thing I'm going to do is rotate the text so it's standing up on my ground plane. Now what I can do here is just grab the handle and rotate it, and I can see up in here that it's affecting my x-axis, so I know which direction I want to go. Now I can just dial in 90. It's rotated. I can grab my move tool here and I can just sort of grab it up so it's sitting above the ground a little bit. Right, now the camera, I'm going to align that next, so I'm going to 0, tab 0, tab 0, and I'm going to continue under rotation. I'm going to take all the rotation out of it as well. Good one. So we've applied all that rotation. We can see the camera is now sitting below here. We'll move it out away, and we want it looking back at the scene. So I'm just going to grab it by the red one. I can see again it's affecting the X, and just to get it precise I'm going to dial in a 90. Good one. So I've basically got the camera looking at the text. We've got the text nice and centered and ready to rotate. That's all good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a look at animating this text. It's quite simple to do. Now, one of the things, once you get into animation, is you will find that 1 second actually seems to last a fairly long time. So it's easy to go into animation like this and think, oh, 10 seconds sounds pretty good. And then you animate something for 10 seconds and you find that it moves, actually quite slow. So it's good to err on the side of making things move nice and fast and add a bit of excitement to it. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to say we're running at 25 frames per second. 250 frames, which is the default, would be a bit kind of slow for a full rotation. So I'm going to set this at say 125, which is going to give us 5 seconds of rotation. Right, now what I'm going to do is first thing I'm going to insert, and I hit I for insert. Here we go, I for insert, and we're going to insert a rotation. So Blender's now, we can see this rotation panel's lit up. It's saying, right, this is the origin on frame 1. Tell us what's going on now. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up to frame 125. So let me just dial that in, 125. That's good. Now if you're not sure which of these axes you want to rotate on, grab it and rotate a bit. Okay, so we can see that the Z-axis was moving there. So let's just set that at 360. Excellent. So now it's rotated 360 degrees on what it was in frame 1. Hit my insert, hit my rotation. That's good. And you can see now if I step back through, easy, I'll rewind that and hit play, and we can see our rotation rotating around. Okay, that's good. Now one of the things that you can see at the moment is that this type is like speeding up to its maximum rotation speed. When it's getting near the end, it's slowing down again. If you want to create a bit of rotation that you want to loop. So you might want to use it as a small file on the web that loops constantly. Then all you basically need to do is create a linear acceleration, so it just instantly accelerates and doesn't decelerate. And then when you loop that, you'll find that it'll look seamless. But we'll use that acceleration and deceleration at the moment because it just looks a little bit smoother for our purposes. So I'm going to go back to frame 1. I don't have to, but I might as well, just to keep things tidy and I know where they are, because now I'm going to have a look through my camera and see how that's working. So what I'm going to do is look, there's different ways we can do this. I might just turn this timeline into a 3D window, and I'm going to hit my 0, and that's going to show me what the camera's seeing. Now typically the Blender camera is set at a focal length of 35mm, which is pretty typical of a basic, SLR that you would have got back in the day. We want something that's a little bit wider than that, so I'm going to dial it maybe down to a 15mm lens. That's actually quite a wide lens, but it's going to give us a little bit of dynamic when we start to rotate the text, because it'll just look a little bit more exciting. I think the wider lenses play around with the perspective just a little bit more. Okay, so we're looking good. This outline is showing me what the camera's seeing. Remember, I hit 0 to enable that camera. We can zoom in on the camera a little bit more. That's all looking okay for the moment. So the camera's all set up. Now, next thing we need to do is start to have a look at how this render is looking. So I'm going to go up to my render tab here, and okay,